Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Well, I managed to find a copy of the Camillus reproduction knife for the George Washington penknife. Now, I showed this one a while back. This is the one that they made back in 1932. This was their first attempt. It's not really historically accurate. It has a George Washington signature on the front side of the knife and imitation pearl handles. It's really just a relatively inexpensive celluloid. It has the bail back here, which the original knife does not have. The only thing that was remotely accurate on it was basically the shape of the blade, but the blade is also the wrong size. But still, for me, the historical importance of this knife was that it is a Camillus knife made to celebrate George Washington's birthday, and he was born in 1732. This knife came out in 1932, so it was the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birthday that Camillus had made. Now this one is a little bit different, and I have a quarter here for scale, and this is a 1776 to 1976 quarter, which is celebrating the Bicentennial of the nation. And got the backside here with the drummer on the back. Really nice quarter. I'm sure anyone my age is very familiar with this. They had I think the quarter, the half dollar, and the silver dollar all had a 1776 to 1976 mark on them, you know, the dates. And it was like the first commemorative quarter made, I believe. I don't know if they did the nickel, dime, or penny. I think it was just the quarter. They started at quarter, and then they had the half dollar and the silver dollar. I've got those too. I should have brought those out too, but the quarter is the only one that has George Washington on it, and I was grabbing it because of, well, George Washington and the George Washington knives. When I was looking for this one, though, I also found this one, and I thought I would show this. It's a keepsake from my college days. Back in college, I used to run a rifle range at the university. I was one of several people who would run it, actually. In any case, the range had 6 lanes on it, all for 22 caliber rifles, and it was 2 cents a round. That's how much it cost at that time, 2 cents for a 22 long rifle. And the range was also used by the university police as well as the city police for qualification and such. It was a 50-foot range. It was a nice range too, but since I worked there was plenty of time when I was there just by myself, or I was just there with a couple friends or something. And one day we got to talking about, you know, silly things that we might be able to shoot at. Among those was like cutting cards in half with a 22 caliber rifle, and we all were able to do that fairly easily. There's a trick to it, but we thought, well, let's see if we can shoot a coin. It's like, come on, we have the targets. The size of the target was about like that, you know. And we could easily hit bullseyes on that because we were all on the rifle team, so it wasn't that hard to actually hit, you know, a target that's about 2 inches. And if you're hitting the bullseye, how could you not hit the quarter? You know, all we'd do is tape it to the target, and it'd be easy to hit the quarter. But the guy, my friend, was talking about, no, what we're going to do is we're going to tape it, and we're going to suspend it with a string, and we're just going to put the quarter down there, and then we're going to try and hit the quarter without the paper backing. And I was thinking, I don't think that's going to be much harder. But it was a little more difficult. As you can see, we definitely didn't hit dead center. And the real problem with it was we had it like taped to the back, a string hanging down, and the quarter would be there, and it would be moving and everything. And if you missed it or something, you know, or nicked it, it would just fly off. You'd never find it again. But I think this is the first or second one I shot, and it's like, boom, hit it, went flying, hit the backstop. That's where the dent is, and then it flipped far enough away so that it did not end up in the sand pit, and I was able to recover the quarter. So one thing we learned from that is a coin in your pocket is not going to stop a bullet, even a .22 long rifle. So don't expect a coin or a watch or something to save your life. And a .22 long rifle at 50 feet will also go straight through a deck of cards, so that's not going to do you any good either. But in any case, let's move on to the knife here. This is also a 200th anniversary knife celebrating Goerge Washington. Now, this is the knife that it's referred to as Goerge Washington's penknife, and there is a bit of a story behind it. I think I covered most of that in this video, the video on this knife, but I will reiterate it here. It's supposedly a knife that was given to Goerge Washington on his 15th birthday. And the reason behind the gift, the gift came from his mother, and the purpose behind it was basically Goerge Washington was thinking of joining the Royal Navy, the British Navy, when he was like 14 or 15 years, well, when he was 14 years old. And his mother basically told him not to do it. And he was all set to do it. He really wanted to do it. He thought it was going to be a good move. Goerge Washington's, his uncle, his mother's brother, got a hold of him and talked to him and said, you do not want to do that. It will just be a trip into hell. You do not want to join the Royal Navy. And he acquiesced to his mother's wishes, basically, and said, all right, I'm not going to join the Navy. I will return to school. And because he did that, his mother gave him ordered him a knife with pearl handles. It was supposed to be a very nice penknife, and the knife that he got looked very similar to this. And apparently, when his mother gave him the knife, she said she gave it to him because as a reminder to always obey his superiors. And he took that to heart, and then later on, he relayed this story at some point to General Knox, one of his subordinates. Somehow they saw the knife, they were talking about it, and he mentioned that to General Knox, how the knife came about. His mother had given it to him, and it was something he would always think about, you know, anytime he would start to question a superior order or something like that. In any case, apparently when he was at Valley Forge and things were not going very well, and he was just catching crap all over the place, he was ready to resign his commission. And supposedly General Knox reminded him of the story of the knife with his mother. And after thinking about it, he tore up the resignation letter and just continued on. How much of the story is true is very questionable, but that's the story behind the knife. The one thing that is certain is the knife is still in existence today, and it is currently held in Alexandria, Washington, in the Masonic Lodge number 22. And that was the lodge that Goerge Washington belonged to, and the knife was gifted to them, well, by Goerge Washington's nephew, along with several other things that belonged to Goerge Washington. He was the executor of Goerge Washington's will, and Goerge Washington wanted the Masonic Lodge that he belonged to have several things, and the knife was one of those items. So that's how the knife ended up in the Masonic Lodge, and it is still there today. And also, the Masonic Lodge, even today, continues to make a copy of this knife. I will probably pick one up from them as well. The one from the Masonic Lodge actually is supposed to have a mother of pearl handle on it. And the original George Washington knife also has a mother of pearl handle. Now this one has a material known as Pearl-X, but Camillus also made one. There were two versions of this knife made, one of them with a Pearl-X handle and the other one with a genuine mother of pearl handle. Otherwise, the knives are identical. This one has the Pearl-X, and you can kind of see it here. And I got to tell you, when I first took it out of the box and looked at it, I was like, is that or is that not Pearl-X? Because it really looked pretty good. But when when you turn it to the side here, you can definitely tell that this is not mother of pearl. It is definitely plastic. But the swirl in it and everything is really nice, and it's got some really good color going with it. Now, the cool thing about this knife is this one is identical in size to the actual George Washington knife, as opposed to this one. So as you can see, it's a little bit larger. The overall length of this knife is 3 inches. As we can, well, overall, the closed length of the knife comes in right at 3 inches, which is what the George Washington knife does too. And it's got a very funky little blade on here. And the blade here is slightly under 1 3/4 inches. They usually say it comes in at 1 3/4 inches, but it's actually 1 11/16, as you can see it right there. Just a little bit under the 2-inch mark. I'm sorry, the 1 3/4 inch mark. And it has the kind of the right shape to it. And notice how skinny that blade is. I don't know how much of this blade, I don't know how much of the original Washington knife was worn down, so I don't know how much of this blade would have been missing. It might have been a much fuller blade on the original knife before use. You got to realize that Washington had carried it and sharpened it since the age of 15. But it's just a really cool little blade there. Notice this blade. So much fuller blade and everything. This one looks closer to what you have at the Lodge 22. Again, I have a feeling the blade originally on the original George Washington knife was probably fuller than this, but this is copying the blade that is currently on the knife, so that's why it is probably as thin as it is. And that might also explain why it has such a deep kick on here. I could be totally wrong though. It might be this is the way the blade was originally. After all, it is supposed to be a penknife. You got much more handle on there than you do blade, which is also very common for a penknife. Notice all the ridges in here. That is kind of the way the original knife also was. It had many stripes on the bolster. See there, Camillus, New York, USA. This was originally made in 1999, but it was still showing up in the Camillus catalogs as late as 2003. So it was made for several years, but first time it was in 1999. This one is probably a later version of it. You notice it's got the 3 pins here, 3 large pins, and then 1 small pin. That is the way the original Washington knife also was made. In any case, got this one. I'll probably have to pick up one with a pearl handle. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find a Camillus one with a pearl handle, and I'm very concerned about trying to pick one up with a pearl handle on eBay, because even these are often referred to as a pearl handle, even though it's not. And I don't think it's always being misidentified. I think the reason people are calling it a pearl handle is because they actually think it is a pearl handle. Because if you don't have something, if you're not very familiar with it, you may not know that. And these were made with a pearl handle by Camillus as well. The problem is those cost, the original ones cost about 3 or 4 times more, I think, than the Pearl X ones did. So they made two versions of it. And I don't know if all the people out there trying to sell them are aware of that, or if they're just hoping that the person buying it is not aware of what genuine mother of pearl looks like, and they're just selling the cheaper version as if it was actually pearl. Anyway, with that said, I think I'll let you go. I think I've rambled on enough about that, and I might end up editing this part out. Who knows? Anyway, talk to you soon. Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pious. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.